just adding in our guests. Give me 1 second. Hello, thank you all for joining. Hi, Leslie.
Hi.
And George should be coming in right now.
Hello, hello,
Hello.
hello.
Can everyone hear me okay? I hear you guys good. Awesome. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us. In case you missed it, this is part two of a live series that we have been doing around privilege. My name is Joria Bradley. I am a product manager here at Push Black. I've been here for about 3 years. And we are so happy to be joined by educator, creator, George Lee, also known as the Conscious Lee, in addition to his amazing TikTok and social media videos, one of which you can see on our profile. George is a language arts teacher in the Oklahoma City Public School District and leads the nationally renowned University of Oklahoma's debate team as the coordinator of policy debate. Thank you so much for joining us, George. I know I didn't even touch on everything else in your bio.
Good. Thank you for having me.
And then we also have Leslie Grover, writer for Push Black and president and founder of Assisi House, in addition to writing for Push Black and being a certified in community storytelling, story exchange facilitation, and narrative medicine. Leslie has published works on issues associated with health disparities, race, and vulnerable populations. Thank you again for joining us, Leslie.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So, to get started, as mentioned, this is part two of our series. Part one, we talked a bit about colorism. And, this is all based on the fact that as a people, we all know that appearance has everything to do with how we're treated. But living in a constant state of survival is sometimes make it hard for us to see and understand how some of us could be more oppressed than others. And it seems like everybody tends to understand colorism as it lends to racism as a whole, but and how it impacts us all internally. But when it comes to empathizing with how it affects us racially as Black people, it seems to be a little tougher. So we talked about fat phobia in part one, and today we want to talk about colorism, break it down. And Leslie, you actually authored one of our stories on this. So can you go ahead and start us out with letting us know what exactly is colorism and give us the historical context for that, just so that we have our solid foundation?
Sure, absolutely. Colorism is just what it sounds like. It's discrimination or different treatment within our own race based on our skin tone, our complexion, our color. And the story I did for Push Black was something that I wanted to know, like, where did colorism even come from? Like, where did this come from? Black is black. So one of the things that I found, which was really interesting, was that our enslaved ancestors, when their captors had sex with them, the products of these relationships, whether they were consensual or not, were often treated a lot better than those who were considered not to be offspring. And that's not also to overlook the fact that we already have different skin tones across the continent of Africa, different hair textures. So that's not saying that, oh, we all looked one way and then white people had sex with us and we had kids and suddenly there were light skinned people and that's where colorism started. I'm not saying that at all. We already had a variety and continue to have a variety of different skin tones, and certainly that was the case with our enslaved ancestors. But the treatment started in this chattel slavery system when it was based on who was closest to the whiteness that runs the system. So that's essentially where it came from.
Thank you for the historical context. George, if you want to take it away with anything else that you would like to add to that.
Yeah, only thing I would add to that is we start to see it get conceptualized in the world that we live in right now, based off of purity of whiteness and white people, as well as off of European beauty standards. We know that when it comes to dating, when it comes to who gets parole, when it comes to who gets the role, you feel me? We understand that the hierarchy of light skin over dark skin, white over black, is one that kind of structures, you know what I'm saying, colorism. I think it's very important that we have a kind of understanding in terms of structure. I know that a lot of folks is gonna give, you know what I'm saying, think about, so does colorism, you feel me, happen to light skinned people from dark skinned people? You feel me? I think that that's a conversation that we can have, but I think that even if you want to acknowledge that violence goes, you feel me, both ways, it doesn't negate the hierarchy of light skin over dark skin. Like, just want to make sure that we understand that as being kind of foundational to how we understand colorism, specifically we talking about white supremacy, because it's really just a product of that. You feel me? Like, oh, light skin, dark skin, light skin, whatever. It's like really just playing with that.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you pointing that out. Again, this is kind of the foundation of why we wanted to have this conversation and seeing how folks respond to some of our content. You know, we do everything from a historical basis, and we get a lot of pushback. So we wanted to definitely come live and have this conversation vocally, so people know that, like you all said, it is the foundation of white supremacy. That is the basis of colorism. That is what we focus on as an organization, dismantling white supremacy. And it's really as simple as that. And as a Black people, we hope through this series to help people empathize with each other a little bit more, while also giving them some real world experience as well as the historical context. And to that point, I also want to talk a bit about the different ways we see colorism show up. George, you kind of already started to talk about that when it comes to relationships and stuff. If either one of you want to take it away with some of the first things you think about when you hear colorism, or even the things that we don't necessarily factor in when we talk about colorism and how it affects Black people in their daily lives.
Take it away, Doc.
Well, thank you. I think, like it's already been touched on, we see a lot of it in our popular culture. We see a lot of it in the advertisements that we see. We see a lot of it in products and how products are marketed towards different people. And it's not just something that happens in the U.S. Like, there have been countless opportunities for international products to have like a multinational product campaign to deal with colorism, and they've made it worse. Like Dove with skin bleaching and having a Black woman washing and coming out white, or pulling off a black shirt and she's white with red hair underneath. Skin bleaching products. Also, a lot of times, and this was particularly true in the 90s, like with videos, music videos, a lot of the Black women that were featured in the videos were light-skinned women.
Right.
And also, the last thing I'll say is, I think it's in a lot of the conversations that we have when we're connecting with each other on social media around self-hate and hair texture and, you know, makeup. These are things where it's planted in sort of like our everyday lives that I don't think we really even see what's happening around us.
Right. Huey P. Newton, you feel me? That's somebody I really look up to, that really helped me, I feel like, understand myself in the world. And something he always used to say was think globally and act locally. So I'm glad that we also contextualizing colorism as not being this unique Black thing. We can pathologize Black people hate each other, you feel me? We recognize that in the world, that there is a standard of a European beauty and a standard of whiteness and purity, you feel me, in terms of how we start to value and how we start to relate You know what I mean? It's just that when we start to think about the ways in which we engage with each other, there's a lot of people in social media that talk about light skin and dark skin and feel like, you know what I'm saying, when somebody else points out that that is a manifestation of colorism, we're seen as the people that's being the bearer of bad news, or we take things too serious, or we can't take a joke. You feel me? And it's like, hey, your joke was bad, your joke was trash, your joke was cool, but all those jokes are still tied to colorism. Now, if you don't want to hear it, you ain't got to hear it, but it doesn't negate that the phenomenon that gave you this thing you're talking about is colorism. You feel me? And I think that that's something for us to really get into, especially when you think about, when you first asked the question, I thought of Lil Wayne. I like them long hair, thick red bone. Open up. I'm thinking of the ways in which I've been conditioned, though, to relate to beauty, and think of the ways in which I've been able to relate to being able to show my status as a black man type thing. You feel what I'm saying? So I can recognize that it's many different ways, whether you like it or not, that we've internalized colorism. The question is you real enough to be real with yourself to recognize the ways in which you've internalized it? You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, and
no, go ahead, Lovely.
No, yes to everything. And then I would also say I think we need to be kinder to one another and recognize that our responses, all of us, at some, even if it's just a mustard seed, have internalized this white supremacy in some way. Those of us who are aware, the difference is just those of us who are aware of it and those of us who are not. Even those of us who are aware of it, still we don't, new ways of indoctrinating us with white supremacy are being created every day. So I would add to that too. A lot of times we should be kinder with each other and realize that sometimes, like was just said, with like people not wanting to be real, it can be very painful, you know. And a lot of times when we lash out at each other like, oh, you know, you can't even take a joke. Well, you know what? It's not funny. Your joke's not funny.
It was trash.
It's damaging,
right. Yeah. So is this about, are you hurt because your joke wasn't funny and you tried to get some clout and make a name for yourself off of a whack joke? You know, or are you speaking out, you know, and you're doing it on the backs of trauma that our people, I mean, that's like a double whammy to it. My thing would be get better jokes.
Get better jokes.
Get better jokes. It's not going to, yeah.
Feel me? I shouldn't be hearing the 1992 remix of some Def Comedy Jam, light skin, dark skin, house Negro, field Negro. That's old. You feel what I'm saying? Right. Like if you really intellectual, you creative, then give me something different, then give me something new. And too, because I'm in the shit talking mood a little bit, I'm not too sensitive to take your joke. I took your joke. You're too sensitive to take the criticism of your joke.
Right.
My sensitivity had nothing to do with how I'm taking your joke. The reason why I was able to understand it is because I'm not being sensitive. But you are being sensitive in the way that I'm critiquing you and your joke and how you making this, you know what I'm saying, your lack of comedian skills.
Right. And when you break it down at the root of it, at the end of the day, the pain and division and derision that white supremacy through colorism has caused among our people is not funny. It's a sickness. It's a pathology. And, you know, it's too soon. Like when people talk about, oh, too soon for the joke, it's too soon.
It's too soon.
It's too soon.
Yes. I forgot the point I was going to make before, but I know the overall, I don't know where it was going to lend in, but I do know that one thing that I really appreciate that us all pretty much here saying is, number one, let's listen. Because when it comes to jokes and things like that, I think as Black people, we are so, we're used to being attacked. So some of us could be reactionary, me included. Listen, I am Twitter fingers when I'm triggered, who knows, you know? But I think a lot of us, we don't, it's tough to put our hurt to the side sometimes. And planning this live and operating these pages and interacting and working with Push Black for the past 3 years and just seeing how Black people interact on social when it comes to the historical context or just Black issues in general, it's kind of blaringly obvious that people have an issue with empathizing. And for myself, I had to remove myself because certain things, you know, they trigger you. You're like, how do we all agree that racism is a thing? But when we talk about issues like colorism, we can be so privileged as to make it about ourselves and how we're also, as light-skinned people, we're also impacted by colorism, of course. But
Agreed.
Right now, we're talking about the foundation of it. We're talking about the foundation. We're talking about its roots in anti-blackness, like you all said, and the fact that this is a global issue. It's not just American. It's anti-blackness, and people of darker shades, they are forced to deal with harder circumstances all over the world. And with this live, we kind of paired these together and the basis of appearance, because we realized like a lot of people can't push certain stuff to the side. Like, I think that it's easier when you deal with certain stuff to empathize with other folks. And that's kind of the conversations that's been happening. And it seems like the triggers, it's hard for people to break through. And it's hard for people to see that this is not just simply people complaining. And it's not just like back, oh, this not a MySpace issue, light skin versus dark skin. That has continued. So if we continue these jokes that led to us getting to that place anyway, we have to realize that we're lending to colorism. We're lending to anti-blackness. We're continuing to feed these things that have gotten us to where we are.
Keeping it real. You just keeping it real at that point. Just keeping it real. I think if we go deeper with the analysis, we can start to see the way in which femininity and masculinity becomes racialized, especially when we think about light skin versus dark skin. Whether we're talking about a light skinned woman or a light skinned man, we understand that it's something supposed to be understood as being dainty, as being delicate,
Soft.
valued, soft. And we understand that as a cisgender straight black man from the hood, I see the ways in which light skin versus dark skin play into a whole bunch of people getting put in the grave or getting put in jail. Because then you're going to internalize, you think I'm weak? Now I'm gonna show you I ain't. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you think? I'm hard. I'm show you I'm hard. It's like now you want to really take these pathological ways of race, of being dark and or being like I know you feel. It's just different ways I see it play out. You know what I'm saying? So when we talk about the jokes get real fast, and from the hood, them jokes can get real bloody real quick.
Yeah, I agree. And then there's a lot of. I think about too, like sorry, my cat Minu is wanting to be part of
Want some love?
Yes, he's spoiled. But I think about too the difference that technology makes in colorism. Right. Because when I was a kid, and I'm sure I'm a little older than both of you all, like there was no childhood social media. So if you got teased on the playground and you got called, derogatory names for a light-skinned person, a dark-skinned person, and even brown people in the middle, there's derogatory names too. If you got called that on the playground, it stayed on the playground or it stayed in the classroom, people got their laughs, you got mad, and then by the end of the day, it's over with, or you fought in the hallway and you're done. But now with social media and things being recorded and being able to get likes and views, and we have keyboard gangsters who want to come in and say all of these things, it can really bring people to feel like they have to prove themselves.
Right.
And so it becomes something much deeper than just like we keep saying, much deeper than light skin versus dark skin.
Right. And even speaking to social media, it's other layers to that too, which is why we'll probably have a ton of other conversations about colorism, because then other things like texturism and features come into play. If we look at social media and what's all on our explore pages, makeup artists and influencers, these are all people, or not all, but a good majority who have capitalized off of cultural appropriation flat out, or contouring in ways that make your face more Eurocentric. These are all, it all adds up. And I think sometimes we lose sight of the fact that this may seem like one little thing, but in the grand scheme, it's up to us to dismantle these on the little places we see them. If you could dismantle it in an Instagram comment, then you do that. Definitely. Because this is how we get impact on a global scale.
Yeah. And we have to support each other too. I know a lot of times, if I'm on Instagram and I'm seeing, different pictures of different people, different textures, Black people, I'm going to put a comment, great, or a heart comment just to show.
I'm going to lift you up.
Yeah, lift you up, to show some positivity, because I also think that when we start, sometimes when we internalize that and we don't like the color of our skin, or we want to, and that's not to say that if you wear makeup or you know, wear your hair a certain way that you hate yourself. I'm definitely not saying that.
Nobody. We're not trying to
Right.
nobody at all.
Not at all.
Right. But, and there are also opportunities to realize too that there are some kids who are in the formative years of their lives right now. And they're seeing things. I mean, there are some times when I look at people on Instagram that I have to be like, wait a minute, get off Instagram for a minute, sis, because this is not real life. Everybody is not, you know, everybody doesn't have a BBL, a $1,700 wig, and all this other stuff. You need to chill out a little bit. For those people that do, there's nothing against them, but you
Right.
know, we don't need to be judging ourselves
Right.
with the same standards. We need to be being ourselves and setting our own standards with that type of thing.
Yeah.
You know, so I can imagine that as a full grown adult with accomplishments, self confidence in my own mind, if I feel a certain type of way, imagine what a younger person in their formative years is going to feel when they haven't even had the opportunity to mature and grow yet.
Agreed.
Right.
Agreed.
Awesome. So before we bring this home, I wanted to end, and we kind of already started talking about this. George, you made a video talking about plantation politics and how, you know, darkness equates to hardness, like we just mentioned. And we also know that darker skin plays a big role in the criminal justice system as well. So I want to get you all's feedback on how we see colorism play out in the justice system for Black people and linked to mass incarceration, police brutality, all the things that we see happening to our people. Like, we know darker skin plays a role in your prison sentence, and I think a lot of people maybe realize it but don't want to speak on it.
I know just me understanding how communication works and how a lot of times we will subconsciously use words to describe people and their abilities, and we don't recognize how much colorism plays into it. As somebody that play a lot of NBA 2K, that watch a lot of basketball, I've been able to studies about how we talk about players' abilities based off of their skin tone. So we see that, so we know that based off of studies, we're able to characterize people with darker skin as being more athletic or being more about what they can do with their body, and more lighter skinned people are seen as being much more methodical or much having a higher IQ. We see this also happens in terms of, you feel me, like the movie Precious. I always think of the movie Precious, right? All the Black folks in the movie Precious that's doing bad, good on Precious, they light skinned. They got the doctor, the therapist, the social worker, Ron Carey, and this, that, and the other. We get to see about how we start to value different people. You feel me? When we start to think about how darker skinned people, I seen somebody in the comments says, I've internalized colorism because I'm more intimidated by darker skinned people. Think about how that plays in terms of police brutality or in terms of getting parole.
Right.
I'm seen as being more deviant, more criminal, more irrational, the darker skinned I am, and or seen as being much more of a monster.
Right. Uh-oh. George, you went out for a second. Did he go out for you too, Leslie?
Yeah, he went out for me too.
All right, let's give him a second. Ooh, he was preaching. That's why.
Look, he was going in.
He was going in, you know.
And
Speculate.
And while he's getting back on, you know, I just want to keep it going that everything he's absolutely saying is true. And, you know, if you can be identified by skin tone too, that's something that is always going to be an issue. Okay, he's back.
Got you back.
Yes.
So we lost you right when you said being looked at as monsters, George. He was preaching, so you know.
Hey, that was the point, though. You feel me? Yeah, my bad. Yeah, my wife is calling me. You feel me? So yeah.
Listen, answer the wifey. Well, thank y'all so much. Like I said, we are hoping to extend this conversation. This is just part of one series, and hopefully we can do a lot more of these. Thank you, George, for joining us. I don't know if y'all have any closing remarks, anything you want to bring home, or any takeaways, better yet, for folks. I think that would be a great point for us to end on, some ways that we can combat colorism in our everyday lives, even though we know racism is started by white people. But as Black people, there's a lot that we can do to make it easier for each other. So if y'all have any closing remarks on how folks can be better to Black folks in their lives, that would be great.
closing statement, my bad, is that light-skinned people watching this and dark-skinned people watching this, we're not trying to, not encouraging nobody to take none of our words, none of our analysis to try to trivialize how light-skinned people's feelings and emotions, you feel me, are deployed and or triggered in these type of situations. You feel what I'm saying? I'm not saying that light-skinned people feelings or experiences or stress or trauma does not matter when I'm talking about this hierarchy of light skin over dark skin. That's not what I'm saying. You feel me? And I don't want
Right.
nobody to take our words, anybody of our words, to say to a light skinned person what they experience and don't matter or X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I just want to say that none of us have a choice in who we are when we get to this earth. We don't have a choice in our skin tone. We don't have a choice in what we look like. We don't have a choice in what um, uh, we don't have a choice in how we navigate. As Black people, all of us matter. All of us are important, and all of us are the we are the some I not beneficiaries, but we carry all of the things that our ancestors went through, every
Right.
single one of us. And so I just want to extend love to everybody out there, and just let you know that, we're all Black, and let's show each other some grace. And we all go through things, and nobody's skin tone, or even if you're of mixed heritage, that's not saying that if you're mixed or one of your family members is white, that's not to discount you either. We're all one, and we all have experiences that we've suffered from. So much
Yep.
love to everybody.
Thank you so much, Leslie. It looked like we dropped George. I hope he's answering the call to his wife, but thank you, George, also for when you see this. Thank you, everyone, for joining and commenting. We hope that this was very helpful for y'all. We will be posting this to our IGTV afterwards. We'll also have in our highlights section where it says join us live, we'll have some stories to read that Leslie's story on colorism, and then a few other from Push Black that kind of digs more into this. So definitely take a look afterwards and keep an eye out for part 3 and more lives from us. And let us know in the comments, in our DM, whatever, what you took from this, any other live discussions you would like from us. And of course, if you have it, donate to the fundraiser below to help support our work so that we can keep bringing these conversations to you all. All right. Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you. Take
See ya.
care.